So the year's 2009, and if you're like me, you've just entered high school and have empty afternoons to fill with your friends. It's times like this that you need a new game that is fun and interesting enough for a barely teenage boy, and includes your other friends to play with. Usually over Skype, because Discord wasn't a thing yet. That's where Borderlands comes in. This was a time when the word looter shooter didn't exist yet, and Borderlands was the freshest thing on the block for people my age. It was violent, it was co-op,
Yeah, this motherfucker's big, bro.
and it was new and interesting. The perfect thing for me and my friends. Alright, so I didn't actually play it until like 2010, and it was only with one friend over late summer nights. We weren't even in school, but you get my point. Hi, welcome to Gnomenclature, a series where we don't rate or review games, but discuss what they did or do right or wrong. My name is Connor, and today we are discussing Borderlands, probably my favorite game series in the video gaming world, maybe only contending with Monster Hunter, but that's a different video. Before we get started, let me explain what this game is if you don't already know. Borderlands is a classic looter shooter, or a game that combines first-person shooting with RPG elements, including leveling with experience, putting points into skill trees, and weapon drops that hopefully outdo what you currently have equipped. With the addition of elemental damage and resistances, critical hits on headshots or other vulnerable spots on enemies, and special action skills or ultimate abilities, the combat gets pretty intense and interesting. And it's all these elements that gave Borderlands the edge in the gaming world at the time. I mean, one of the best-selling games of 2009 was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And while that game is great in its own right, we already were used to the first-person shooter, and we needed a new take on the game. Enter Borderlands. A game that combined all the gameplay of a first-person shooter with the strategy of an action RPG. And really what we got was a mess of fun, with a loot system that always had you hoping for the color orange. I gotta pause the video here for a quick second. When I say hoping for the color orange, I'm referring to the loot rarity system in the game. You see, orange is the highest rarity you can get, and they're usually special guns that do really cool specific things. Alright, back to the video. And better stats than your current gun, it made for an incredibly satisfying experience, and consistently rewarded you with better gear, something current looter shooters still have a problem with. Gameplay aside, Borderlands brought in a new and interesting world, one filled with just as much comedy as it was danger, one that channeled Mad Max but with the humor of a 12-year-old who's seen one too many violent movies, and it made for an entertaining experience to say the least. The characters were surprisingly colorful and full of life for being stuck on a dusty desert filled with psychos and alien dogs who were just trying to eat them, but that's what made it fun, the fact that every character you met was just a little off. But I mean, you had to be to live on Pandora, the Wild West of space it seems, a planet where no law exists and is filled with stories of a mythical vault that's filled with treasure. Which is exactly what brought our four main characters to begin with, each of them as much of an outcast or misfit as any other character we meet. Roland the Soldier went AWOL from a mercenary group called the Crimson Lance, you'll meet plenty of them in this game I promise, who is packing his trusty Scorpio turret and many other useful skills. Mordecai is a hunter who was ridiculously good at sniping, to the point that he literally got kicked out of any competition he could take in it. So he did what any reasonable person would do. He stole an extremely rare and dangerous animal and went to Pandora. Lilith, a siren who is born with mysterious tattoos and seemingly magic powers, like going invisible and causing a big explosion when she comes out of it. And Brick, who, looking at my notes here, Brick gets angry and he solves problems by punching them. Alright, doesn't really fit in. These characters and their abilities have to fight through hordes of psychos, bandits, alien creatures, and mercenaries to get to this mythical vault, all while being led by a mysterious figure projecting her voice into their heads, whose name is Angel. Now that I got that synopsis done, and I've gushed about this game left and right, let's talk about where it falls short. I'm not saying by any means storytelling is an easy thing to do, but this game does not do a good job at it. Many of the antagonistic characters don't really make me feel like I'm on a mission to stop them. There's not a lot of tension behind the threats they make, and that's because it's typically just, stop it, or I'll kill you. And let's be fair, you're the main character of a game from 2009, You know you're going to win, you just want to feel compelled along the way. The world, while it's interesting from afar, isn't really explained well. We just know Pandora exists in this universe, and through some audio logs from some side missions that say something about multiple galaxies, we can only assume Borderlands takes place in a super advanced world where intergalactic space travel is possible. And when we get to the characters, most of them are extremely memorable, like Dr. Zed or Scooter, but there are some that you can kind of get confused with others, or forget about entirely. A good example of this is Helena Pierce, an NPC who gives you missions in New Haven. You actively interact with this character to get missions or things to do. She's brought up in Borderlands 2 in a side mission at the very start of the game, and I totally forgot she existed from the previous game. I thought it was just a character they threw in there to throw in there to be interesting, or work with the bit they were trying to go with in that mission. I was wrong. She was an active character in 1, but that's just how bland she was. The story is pretty bare bones as well. You're just a group of individuals looking for this magical vault and tackling challenges along the way. There aren't really any big twists or turns or betrayals, no side plots, nothing, just straightforward story. And don't get me wrong, something like that can be really refreshing in today's world where everything has to be super complicated. But this game didn't put a lot of effort into explaining the world either, and I feel like when you're making a game and writing a story, if you're not going to focus very hard on the story, you should at least focus hard on explaining your world, or showing us as a player what makes this world unique. And I feel like that's more up to the player to discover in this game than they actually try to show you. This game has a really bad habit of having repetitive and uninteresting side missions. They usually say, go here and kill X so you can pick up Y and return it to where you picked up the mission. There aren't any super memorable side missions, and the most memorable main mission is a short-lived boss fight. Where the game attempts to make up for this is with the amount of missions it offers. It's rare to go back to an area you've already been and not hear Claptrap come over the comms and say, there are new missions on the bounty board. And while that's fun, it could be a pain to go back to place to place to place, only to do missions that are the same formula you've been doing for X amount of hours already. Where the game actually picks up and learns to start writing interesting stories and get you really invested in characters is when you get to play the DLC. Borderlands did pretty well in the sales, and Gearbox made 4 story DLC packages that are way more interesting than the main game. The Zombie Island of Dr. Ned is a story of the main characters going to a mysterious island run by Dr. Ned, who just really appears to be Dr. Zed, the existing NPC with a mustache drawn on his medical mask. It's not really clear if they're actually brothers or if it's Dr. Zed just messing around, but still, it's a fun zombie-based DLC that adds a new element of, not horror, but creepiness for sure to the game. Mad Moxie's Underdome Ride is your basic wave-based arena. You go in and you fight waves and waves of enemies and get rewarded at the end. Sure, it's not interesting story-wise, but it introduces Moxie, a character who I don't think was intended to be as popular or big as she was. And she gives you a lot of conflicting feelings considering she's probably the sexiest clown you could meet. The secret army of General Knox had Vault Hunters battle even more Crimson Lance. And there's this great segment at the end where you get to race against time to get as much loot as you can carry before the base explodes. It's super memorable and super fun. This DLC also introduces Athena, a Crimson Lance elite assassin who becomes a bigger character later on in the series. Claptrap's New Robot Revolution is a fun way to wrap up this game. It visits all the other DLC and some of the main story as you have a boss rush through all these main bosses you fought so far. And there's a point where you get to beat up on Claptrap, which is always welcomed. I mean, he's written to be annoying, but he's still annoying. The good thing is, by the end of Borderlands run, Gearbox learned how to tell stories in the style that fit the world. It wasn't your same old boring, oh, go here and then add a quirk here or there, or here's this character who's solely meant for comedy, or here's this character who's more serious but kind of clashes with everything else around them. They found a way to actually write interesting stories with the characters in the spotlight, and that worked a lot for the series as a whole. When it comes to creative takes on existing tropes, it's hard to beat Borderlands. The post-apocalyptic feel of the world and the character designs, met with the goofy interaction and personalities of said characters, make this game a gem that's just dulled with age. And what game hasn't? It's hard to go back and play your favorite RPG as a kid knowing that it's just a basic turn-based RPG with no really exciting mechanics. games age, and we have to accept that in this world. What we can say, though, is the sequels of this game do a better job of storytelling and building on the existing mechanics, which is all you can hope for in a sequel. Hopefully you'll hear about those in a later video that I should already be working on. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video. It means a lot. If I sound a little off in the video now, it's because I'm kind of sick. I don't know, I was just really motivated to work on the videos. So I really wanted to record it, even though I probably shouldn't have. But if you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to see Nomenclature in a different game, put it in the comments. I love doing this series. It's the first time I've been motivated to work on something like this in a while. But anyway, thank you so much. See you guys in the next video.